You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And today on our Total Wellness Tuesday, we're going to be talking about a topic that affects most families now and will only continue to do so in the future. And that topic is Alzheimer's, or some type of dementia. So I was given the task to create a podcast on how we can help prevent Alzheimer's in people. It's something that I've studied in depth from both a lifestyle, from a wellness, and also from an anti-aging and genetic perspective. I do quite a bit of work in this field. I consult with a great number of companies on the genetics and different specific blood types on how they can actually affect people's rate of getting Alzheimer's. And when I talk about blood types, I'm going to go into that in a minute. I'm not talking about the A, B, O, or AB blood type. What I'm talking about is specific alleles, they're called, in your genes that come off of one of your chromosomes that actually predict a greater likelihood of getting Alzheimer's. Now, a lot of people are kind of scared about that. I am not one of those people, and here's why. I'd rather know if I'm more at risk or not so that I can do something about it now rather than wait until it's too late. Okay, so let's get right into the show. We're going to be reviewing everything today. Just keep in mind that right now there are over 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's or have some type of dementia. And really in the not too distant future, 1 in 3 seniors, meaning like 1 out of 3 of all of us, everyone, is on pace to develop Alzheimer's or some type of dementia. That is a staggering number. It's something that's going to cost our nation $236 billion. And I know we have a lot of people from outside the U.S. listening to this podcast. Just keep in mind, wherever the U.S. is right now, every other country is moving towards that because they're kind of, not that this is a good thing, copying the type of conventional medicine, the drugs, those types of things that are being used in this country. Now, there's a lot of European countries, a lot of Eastern European countries that, I shouldn't say Eastern, depending on the part of Europe that you're in, are doing a better job. Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, a lot of all those countries are doing just a much better job at actually using natural-based methods and now paying back some money if you keep yourself healthy, which is, what a novel idea is that the people who are staying healthy, you're given a benefit from that. I think that's what we need to start doing as well. So let's get right into it. Well, let's look at what some of the risk factors are for Alzheimer's. And then if we know the risk factors, well, why don't we work backwards and we'll work on those things before they become an issue. Because remember, Alzheimer's doesn't happen overnight. A lot of people are like, oh, I got Alzheimer's. Well, you didn't just get Alzheimer's. That doesn't happen with any disease. Meaning like you don't just get rheumatoid arthritis. You don't just get Hashimoto's. You just don't get sarcoidosis. You don't get any of those things. It happens over a period of years. Now, some faster than others because there can be a chronic, or I should say a very acute breakdown, a great amount of stress in your life, a specific bacteria that you're exposed to that makes this transition happen faster, but it certainly doesn't happen overnight, that's for sure. And we can get into that in future episodes, but it has to do with digestion, it has to do with stress, and let's get into that now. So what are some of those things that we know affects Alzheimer's? So I'm going to get into the genetics, like I said, in a moment, because you'll know just genetically if you're more prone or not, but let's get into it. So regular exercise. So what does that mean by regular exercise? Well, it means about 30 minutes most days of the week. So 30 minutes of exercise, 5 days a week. That's the statistic that we know brings greater amounts of blood flow pumping through the body and also to the brain. It's boosting endorphins. It is helping to detoxify. It's getting us to sweat. It's doing all of those great things in our body that we need for a lifetime of health. Now, you'll notice I said 30 minutes. I didn't say an hour. I didn't say an hour and a half. And I didn't say 4 minutes, about 30 minutes, enough time to actually create some type of mimicking of what we might have done for like actual manual labor, like some type of real work with your body. Now, I personally recommend about 2 to 3 days of resistance training or strength training per week, and about 2 to 3 days of cardio-based work. That could be intervals or longer steady state sessions. Both can be great, just depends on the person and just depends on what they need. So now keep in mind, like, you hear strength training, you're like, oh, I can't do that. Well, you can. It can just be body weight based workouts. You can be doing assisted pull-ups. And please look back to my previous Thursday's podcast called Training Thursdays. It's a TT in iTunes. And you'll see all the different things that I recommend. You can do pull-ups and push-ups and squats and lunges and step-ups. All of those things can be done body weight. And then you can start adding in some bands and maybe a little bit of kettlebell work. You can do all of this at home. You can do all of this in just 30 minutes. It's fantastic. And of course, the cardio, you don't need any fancy equipment. And I usually shy away from it in the first place. So that's exercise. Now let's look at a healthy diet. Well, of course, diet, that makes a lot of sense. Well, what do you have to do? Well, what we've been saying for all disease, and Alzheimer's is really no different. It's just another expression of poor health, unhealthiness. And you want to stick to more of a Mediterranean-based diet. It's a lot of how I eat. My diet is very close to Mediterranean, and I just use bioindividuality. I do what's best for my body. So I have some Asian parts to what I have in my diet, and most of it's Mediterranean. The majority of it is all plant-based with fruits and vegetables. Well, why? Because Mediterranean-based diets are higher in omega-3s, less in omega-6s, which we know affects the brain. We know it affects inflammation, which affects Alzheimer's and dementia. We know that a Mediterranean diet is packed full of antioxidants with all of those vegetables and with the fruits and the berries and things like that as well. It's limited in dairy and it's limited in meat. So, and you don't even, there's no benefit necessarily to eating dairy or meat. You can just add those if you want, if you are someone inclined to eating some dairy and some meat. Just keep in mind, I would run a food sensitivity test for dairy. And I'm just, being very, very straightforward with you, the majority of people I see in my practice have a delayed reaction to dairy. And that means that they react to dairy when they eat it, but they don't necessarily react maybe right away, but it's another 24 to 72 hours later that wears down their immune system that creates inflammation. We give a great price on it. It's an at-home food sensitivity test. You get our customer, like our private client base of what you get for a wellness plan. You get to talk with our nutrition. It's included in it. It's an absolute great deal. And that's just right at the StephenCabral.com/store. And you get all of that good information. And if you don't run it, that's fine, but you just get a little bit more information on it. So try to limit your cooking in oil. Try to eliminate your processed foods like your bagged or box-based foods and stock up on more things that you would see in nature, right? That just kind of makes sense. Other little tidbits that help. I'm not going to get into the supplements for Alzheimer's today, but there are a bunch that are great. You need your B vitamins, you need magnesium, you need vitamin D, you need your omega-3s, you need your vitamin E. Other things that have been shown to be great benefit are the coenzyme Q10 and turmeric. You can go kind of wild with supplements. Start with your food. Start with your exercise. Start there. You can drink some green tea. That's been shown to be beneficial, or white tea. Some herbal teas are fantastic as well. What else can I give you for just quick tips on this? Things that you can start implementing right away. One of the other things I say is sleep. Sleep is directly tied to decreasing stress. So obviously with Alzheimer's, you need to decrease stress. So you need to work on doing some type of yoga practice, stretching practice, or just kind of like a walking meditation practice, which is what I do. And I go for a walk every day, unless it's literally raining sideways. As I say, I go for a walk every single day during lunch. And I just take my time, I breathe, my phone's away, I'm not looking at it, and that's my meditation. I'm breathing in through my nose and I'm breathing out through my mouth. I'm relaxing and calming my body. And definitely look up my previous podcast on meditation. Sleep is greatly, greatly important. Do try to get in bed somewhere around 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay? The more hours before midnight, the better. Try to go to bed as close as you can to when the sun's setting and wake up to when the sun is rising. That is how we get our body better in tune with nature. We're decreasing the stress hormone cortisol, which we know has been found to lead to greater occurrences of Alzheimer's and dementia. any type of social relationships that you can gather in, like once a week, getting together with friends, getting together with family, something that relaxes you, that brings you a lot of happiness, that makes you laugh a lot. They've found that not only that to increase longevity, but also to decrease your chances of Alzheimer's as well. Now, you'll notice if you listen to my Blue Zones episode, which I did a bunch of episodes back as well, in the Blue Zones episode of talking about the longest lived populations, you'll notice that this is kind of touching on the same exact things as the Blue Zones. And there's no coincidence. People who live longer aren't going to have Alzheimer's for the most part. They're going to be healthier overall. So all of this, of course, just makes sense, and it goes hand in hand, with those specific long-lived populations. So I invite you to also check out that episode as well. The Blue Zones was in episode 45. All right. Next up is some type of, I like to say, mental stimulation or a way to engage your brain on a daily basis. Some people love Sudoku. Others love crossword puzzles. Some people really read stimulating books. A lot of people keep themselves engaged with a hobby or building something or painting or drawing or whatever it might be. Those are all great things to keep as part of your life and throughout your life, learning a language that stimulates the brain as well. Okay, now let's just give you just a few other quick tips that I would like to leave you with before talking about the genetics. And so you have to make sure that if you're smoking, please stop. Smoking is going to increase oxidative stress. It's going to break down the entire body, and that includes your brain. Your brain is one organ in your entire body. It doesn't just affect your lungs, doesn't just affect your heart, kidneys, it affects your brain as well. Make sure you're getting your blood pressure and cholesterol to a positive level, meaning a healthy level. Normal blood pressure is within 10 points of 120/80, and it is total cholesterol. You want your LDL under 130, ideally around 110. If you can look at a more in-depth profile, but looking at the actual size of the LDL particles. If you're prone to cardiovascular disease, email us. We'll show you the tests that you should be doing. For cholesterol, triglycerides, keep them low. That's the bottom line. If your triglycerides, now the range can be over 150. I like triglycerides 100 or below. I like HDL over 55. Total cholesterol between ideal world, 160 and 200. Somewhere between that range is fantastic for overall health. Make sure you're keeping your weight down. The number one thing you can really do just starting out is weight loss. That's why I say you don't move on to our wellness program. Don't move on to our anti-aging program until you get your weight down to within 10 to 15 pounds of your goal weight. That takes care of so much, and that includes inflammation. Detoxification is the very best way to go about all of this that we're talking about right now, and also losing weight. You can choose to do the Dr. Cabral detox, or you can choose to do whatever detox you feel is best for you, whether that's green juice, whether that's intermittent fasting, something that's going to support your body. Absolutely fantastic. And there is no benefit to drinking alcohol that is not washed away literally by the side effects of drinking alcohol. So drink alcohol if you'd like once a week or so with friends, with family, because you want to have a good time, you want to laugh, and you want to enjoy that social aspect. I have no problem with that. I think it could be healing in and of its own right, but simply do not drink wine because you think that it's going to give you the benefits. If you want the benefits of red wine, you can take a resveratrol-based supplement, or you can drink dark grape juice, or another great dark thing like that. You could do that. I say eat the fruit. You don't need to juice those specific types of things. All right, I'm going way over in our time today, so I'm going to give you a quick snip on this. But one way you can see that if you are more prone to Alzheimer's, meaning like there's 14% of the population that just has a far greater likelihood of getting Alzheimer's. But again, you can absolutely not get Alzheimer's, which means just because you have this specific thing in your genes does not, I want to repeat, it does not mean you're going to get Alzheimer's. It absolutely does not mean that. It just means you're more prone to inflammation and getting Alzheimer's. So you can run a genetic test. We have the genetic testing, again, in our store. You can run your genetic test and not even ask to see because it won't tell you if you're more prone to Alzheimer's, but we can tell you if you would like. You look at your ApoE profile. So ApoE is just a certain type of allele, again, from your chromosomes. I won't get deep into the genetics, but you either have a 2, you have a 3, or you have a 4 allele. Now, you get 1 copy from your mother, 1 copy from your father, and then you have 2 copies. If either one of those copies is a 4, okay, like most people are an ApoE33, they don't have a 4 copy. So over 50% of the population, 55% of the population, depending on, again, the copies, is less likely to obviously get Alzheimer's. Now, if you have a 2 copy of an allele is less likely to get Alzheimer's as well. So now we're taking it all the way down to, what's the math on that? 86% people are less likely. But those same people, even though they're not prone to it, they get Alzheimer's as well. And 14% of the population, they have a 4 in that number. One of their alleles, instead of a 2 or 3, is a 4. They could be a 3-4, they could be a 2-4, or they could be a 4-4. And the 4-4s are the most likely to get Alzheimer's because they have 2 copies. And the 3-4s are also more prone to getting Alzheimer's. But again, I work with hundreds of people with a 4-4 and 4-3, and that doesn't mean they're getting Alzheimer's at all. That's just not the way it is. I know my grandparents, they had 4s in their alleles, and neither one of my mother's parents that I know who I was closest with had Alzheimer's, and they had no dementia, and they lived into their 90s. So again, it does not mean that you automatically get Alzheimer's because you have that allele. So if you'd like, if you're more like me, you want to do all the data testing, check out that genetic test online at the store. And I'm going to obviously be talking about this more in the future, but for now, that gives you a lot to think about, a lot to do, and thank you once again for tuning into the Cabral Concept.
Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.